So I just posted a poem that I wrote in the midst of a miscarriage that I had. It was something that I had never experienced before. To the best of my knowledge, it was the only time that I have had a miscarriage. And I was all kinds of fucked up about it. All kinds of fucked up. My whole life, my statement was always, I am pro-choice because I never want anyone telling me what I can or can't do with my body. But I'm pro-life for myself because I also could never imagine not having a child that was, given to me, that was embedded in my womb. I was pregnant really young. I got pregnant when I was 19 and had my oldest son. And so I've been a mom for a long time in the very, standard linear human sense. Motherhood means so many things. It doesn't actually have to involve just human children, but I've been a mom for a long time, and I have always wanted to be a mom. It's one of those things that I have a very distinct memory of being a child and in that space of, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a good mom. The two things that I wanted to make sure that I was, or that I remember saying is, actually, let me rephrase that, 3 things. I wanted to be a good mom. I just want my kids to know that I love them. I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to be a writer. And the beauty of that is I have been able to be exactly all those things amongst many others. But that's not what I came on here to talk about and to speak upon and teach to. I always had said, I'm pro-choice because I don't want anybody telling me anything, but I'm pro-life for myself. And then I found myself pregnant with a child at a time that wasn't the right time for me. I was a no. I found myself pregnant with a partner that I didn't want to be connected to for my entire life in that way. The funky thing about connection and about energy is ultimately A, we're all connected. B, because that experience happened, now this person and I are connected no matter what. And what I mean by that is now there has been this experience, shared experience, and so there is a connection there no matter what. But I knew that I didn't want to be connected to that person forever in a way that meant we have a child together now. I also had already had children by different fathers. So with this experience of finding out I was pregnant came that storyline and that rhetoric, that internal ass kicking of, oh, really, Olivia, here you go again. This is what you do, multiple children, multiple men, et cetera, et cetera. So I found myself in a position of, yeah, pro-choice, but pro-life for me, actually not. Actually not. And I didn't want to have this child, but I also did want to have this child. I looked at my current children at that time, and I was like, how can I say no to them? Because what it equated to in my brain was that the child that was in my womb was already one of those children that was out there outside of my body. How could I say no to that? How could I say no to that? I felt like an asshole for saying no to that. Absolutely. I felt like a bad mom for saying no to that. I felt like a bad mom because what I was perceiving in that experience, amongst many things, which I will continue to share and discuss, what I perceived in that moment was that I was being selfish because I was choosing my career, or I was choosing myself, or I was choosing, freedom, or, I was choosing myself. And that's uncomfortable for me. It's uncomfortable for me to choose myself. So I felt like a dick. I felt like a bad mom. I loved my child immediately. I loved my child immediately. I don't know if that's true for anyone else, but it's my truth. All the children that I have had, all the children that I have been pregnant with, I have loved them immediately. This one, I also knew immediately that I was a no. But I had to reconcile that. I had to figure out how to be okay with being a no. And that's a statement not just about a miscarriage or the choice to have an abortion or this particular subject matter. Learning how to be okay being a no is a whole fucking process in and of itself. It's a whole experience. We have a hard time being a no. We have a hard time being a yes. We have a hard time telling the truth, whatever our truth is. And ultimately, that's what pushed me to share what I wrote and what is pushing me to share this experience, because this is my truth. This is my truth. I am a human being. I am a human being that is a collection of all the things that I've gone through so far up until this point on the timeline of my life. And so with any decision I make, any feeling I experience, it is completely informed by the previous experiences, by what life has taught me. You know, and what's crazy about that is what life has taught me is also just a choice and a perception. But we don't know that it's a choice and that it's a perception until we find ourselves in situations like this where we're feeling some type of way about something. And then we have to discern or try to understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling about this situation. That is the essence of fire season. I've been posting a lot and talking a lot about fire season because that's what we're in, right? So I do this medicine wheel work and I teach and I have this offering and whatnot, and this is fire season. And fire season is the place where we are afforded opportunities to investigate and get curious about the stories, the rhetoric, the conditioning, the belief systems. You don't have to only be in fire season to have that experience. You are flexing a fire element expression when you're having that experience, no matter what time of year it is. That's a whole bunch of stuff you can get into if you want to go find out more about Medicine Wheel. Or DM me and let me know, we'll talk about it. But the choice to share this poem that I wrote while I was in the middle of my miscarriage is because real life is the work. Humanity is the work. Real life is the curriculum, you know, it's the work of self is the only work that we're ever doing. And we do this work of self through our personal experiences. And those happen at our job. Those happen within our family constellation. Those happen in our dating life. Those situations happen when we're out and about socially. I mean, real life is the curriculum. And so this piece that I wrote, and I guess I kind of want to do a little bit of sharing some additional information. I tried on a couple different scenarios when it comes to this child. I tried on okay, well, what would this look like? How would this feel? What if I just told myself, okay, I'm going to have this child, but I'm not going to tell the father. Or I'm going to have this child and I am going to tell the father. Or I'm not going to have this child and I'm going to go investigate an abortion. Or there are so many thoughts that I experienced that it was wild. And wild is the appropriate word. Shit was flying all over the place in my mind, in my heart, in my field, in my consciousness. I tried things on. I gave myself permission to feel into each possibility. I gave myself permission to be excited about growing another human. And allowed myself to see what came with that. I gave myself permission to feel sad about not, and allowed whatever experiences or emotions that came forward with that to come forward. You know, I gave myself space and time to have that human experience. And ultimately, you know, I decided that I didn't want to move forward with this pregnancy. But I also knew that I didn't want the surgery or the chemical or any of the, what is the word? Any of the mechanical ways, any of the, you know, enforced ways of making sure this happened. I believe in energy. I believe in free will. I believe in conscious choice. I speak all the time of how the things we say, we speak into fruition. And so I asked myself, like, okay, do you think I can have a conversation with this entity, this frequency that is this baby? I communicate with energy all day long. I communicate with frequencies and threads of energy all day long. If you're a client of mine, you know that I've done that for you and with you. If you're a friend of mine, you know that I've done that for you and with you. You know, so it's like that's the dimension, that's the land in which I live. And I'm like, can I have a conversation with this little thing, this little entity, and say, listen, I love you very much. Now is not our time. Can I release this life form in a gentle way? And so I did. I posted a while back about being at the river. Those were expressions and experiences of that releasing ceremony. Some of you might listen to this and say, oh, well, you just had a miscarriage, you know, like the pregnancy like wasn't viable. Maybe it was ectopic. Maybe, yep, for sure. Yep, that's one language for sure. Some of you are going to listen to this and be like, oh no, she consciously chose and asked for that life to release, and so it did. Yep, that's a language. That's a way to perceive it. Yep, there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer, and I'm not interested in having a right or wrong answer. I'm only interested in any time these experiences come forward, which are all the time. Every experience is an experience to be had and an opportunity to witness and observe yourself within that experience and that container. I'm only ever interested in the awareness of self, the witnessing of self as I witness others, the awareness of self as I witness myself within certain containers. I mean, again, I'm not worried about right or wrong, left or right. It's just, this is what's happening. So I had a miscarriage. And one of the things that I found extremely powerful about this miscarriage experience, and it ties directly to my preferred approach of elemental living, medicine wheel living, cyclical living, is that I was every single part of the fucking wheel in that process. And when I say that, I'm speaking very specifically to not only the elemental medicine wheel, but also the feminine, the essentially feminine medicine wheel of spirituality, sexuality, sisterhood, and motherhood. My motherhood expression was clearly being rocked, right? Like I literally have a human child growing in my body. The receiving of new life. The sisterhood component was totally being rocked and flexed because I had to tell some people. I didn't tell a lot of people, only a couple, but they were my sisters because I was a little bit like, what the fuck? It's a little bit like, okay, what is happening? You know, and it was the water element. I was crying, so many tears, so much crying. My spirituality expression was being rocked. That's the north direction. Spirituality, the connection with source. The connection with source that I was experiencing in this pregnancy and miscarriage component was that curiosity of, can I have a conversation with this entity? Can I be in energetic relationship with something that is not really tangible and still allow it to be meaningful, still have it be impactful, still allow it to be as prevalent and important to my decision-making process and the choice of how I want to move, even though it's not like right here in my hand. You know, as humans, and we talked about this, Nicole and I, in the IG live that we did yesterday, we're so attached to the physicality. Even the concept of taking a pregnancy test. I only know if I'm pregnant if I take this pregnancy test, or I only know if I'm not pregnant if I get a negative result, which, as a side note, I never took another pregnancy test. Once I felt it, and then I did take a test. I'm like, shit, I'm pregnant. Okay, went through the whole process. Once I bled and released, and for anyone who has had a miscarriage, and even just if you haven't, like, our bodies and our cycles as women are very unique. So things are kind of funky sometimes. And for me, I was questioning, like, am I, like, you know, because sometimes you can still have a period and still be pregnant. And I was kind of going down the rabbit hole, and I'm like, no, I know it's complete. And I never took another pregnancy test because I did not want to feed into that attachment to the physical experience or the physical confirmation. Because sometimes confirmation isn't physically visual or physically tangible. That's an aside. I was very acutely aware of my spiritual experience. This was an unbelievably spiritual experience. Really, everything is. What I found to be quite interesting was my sexuality. My sexual energy. I was so unbelievably turned on in this experience. And I want to take a moment to speak to turn on, because turn on is not just about intercourse with partners. Turn on is about sensory and sensual existence, sensory and sensual living. So eating an incredible meal turns us on. Hiking and being aware of the heat of the desert around us turns us on. Touching our skin and feeling the softness of that turns us on. It makes us alive. Turn on is about an aliveness. I was so completely alive in this experience. There was physical pain, there was emotional pain, there was, you know, these subtle, like, razor's edge experiences of emotion, of all kinds of emotion, of, you know, elation because I'm so connected to source, of, you know, deep fear and wounding and trauma because all those stories are coming forward. You know, the absolute reverence of witnessing myself in each step of this. So when I say turn on, that's what I meant. For me, I was the most feminine. It was like a culmination of femininity in that experience because I was the entire wheel. I was the entire essentially feminine wheel of spirituality, sexuality, sisterhood, and motherhood. And what I found myself becoming aware of is how much I longed for the anchoring of of masculine energy. The dance of the masculine and feminine are paramount for me. It has changed my life. It has changed how I interact with myself, with others, just with the world in general. And so being unbelievably feminine and in that wild state, you know, feminine energy is it's like a tempest. We're an ocean, you know, we're calm, we're subtle, we are pristine, and then we are wild and fierce and everything in between. And I say we because I identify as female, but again, I'm talking about just the feminine expression, which lives in all things. I was so feminine that I longed for that masculine anchor. While I was bleeding, there was so much energy in my womb, in that space, as I was shedding, as I was moving through that miscarriage. I longed for that masculine anchor. Who the fuck wants to have sex when they're having a miscarriage? At least that's what I asked myself. There must be something wrong with me. I must be crazy. But the reality is no. I needed containment. I needed anchoring. I needed to know that I was held in some capacity. To become aware of that experience, to become aware of that need for myself, to become aware of the fact that I need a release. I need something to help move this energy that is like just felt stuck inside of me. You know, and that's what intercourse or an orgasm or coming together with another, what that can provide. It's not the only thing that it provides, but it can be. To give myself the spaciousness and allow that to be true, that's a big fucking deal. And not because it's me, but it goes back to what I said earlier, which is to tell the truth is a big fucking deal. To acknowledge our humanity is a big fucking deal. We don't do that very well. We're very uncomfortable to be honest. We're very uncomfortable to tell our truth. For fear, and I'll speak for myself in this moment, as well as saying, it's a lot of what I hear from clients and from people, for fear of people judging us and leaving us. We don't ever want to feel abandoned. We don't ever want to feel alone. We want to feel connected. We want to feel held. We want to feel like we matter somewhere. So the fear of expressing our truth, expressing the very real and raw humanity of, I feel like I might be dying and coming apart in this miscarriage, and I need to feel something different. I want to feel something different. I need a release. Like, I don't know what I need. I feel crazy. I'm insane. Please help me. Please hold me. Sometimes we don't even know what we need. We just know we need help. And that's the perfect place to start. That's the perfect thing to say. Please just help me. I don't know what I need. So to acknowledge the humanity of that, to acknowledge the beauty of that is a big deal. And to allow something that my brain told me was inappropriate, and yet for some reason my body is like, yo, this is what I need. Okay, let's go do it. Let's ask for it. Let's see if we can figure out how to do this, to clear this energy out, to shift and transmute what was into something different, into something new. And in that way, new life was created. A new expression of my life was created. A new expression of how I show up for myself was created. And if that's all that my baby girl was here to do, then that's all she was here to do. Could we ask for anything more? Could there be anything more potent and powerful? I mean, gosh, we get so stuck on how we think things should be, instead of acknowledging how they are and allowing that to be a truth, knowing that we can change our mind, give the truth a different meaning. You know, we can move and flow the way energy moves and flows, always. The important component of it for me is to not let myself get ahead of that energy, to be led by it, to be guided by it. I didn't plan on waking up that morning and finding out I was pregnant, but I did. What do we do now? That's what I mean when I say don't get ahead of the medicine. For me, medicine is equatable to energy, is equatable to life, is equatable to almost like karma. You know, it's just like, this is the path, this is what's it's God, you know, it's God. You know, when people talk about, you know, let God lead the way, let the medicine, let the energy, that's my God, you know, that's my expression of it. To me, it's all the same thing. It's love. Let love lead the way. And I may have had a whole bunch of other things in my headspace, not even just for that particular day, but for the, you know, trajectory of my life at that time. But the importance for me is to not get ahead of the medicine. And when something shows up that is asking for your attention, my invitation is to take a moment, listen to it, follow it, allow it to lead you where it wants to lead you. Because now I know unequivocally, and I've known this-ish, but it continues to get anchored in and established into my cells, into my heart, into my existence, that I can trust that. When I go where the energy leads me, I can trust that. If I'm resistant to something, there's a reason. If I'm not invested in something, there's a reason. So the practice for me, and almost in answer to one of Nicole's questions yesterday on the live, which was, well, what do we do? Well, we follow the energy. We try not to get ahead of the medicine. If there's nothing to do, then we don't do anything. And in that, we are doing something by honoring and allowing the flow of life to take us where it wants to take us. And I say us as an individual statement. I say us as a country. I say us as a globe. I say us as a cosmos. Don't get ahead of the medicine. It will lead you to exactly where you need to go every single time. And that's what it means to be self-anchored, to be anchored in the knowing that I am held no matter what. And my experience of all this is that I always get what I want when I do those things, when I show up in that way, when I allow the medicine to lead me. I always get what I want. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for holding space. If you have questions, you want to know how to not get ahead of the medicine, you want to understand this energy stuff, medicine wheel, whatever this brings up for you, let it be an invitation to follow. And if there's anything that I can do, anything that I can be, I'm right here.